Hey guys, Robert here with you this morning from MudBusters. Today we're working on a CFMoto Uforce 1000. We'll be installing a set of fender flares. First thing you need to do, there's some rivets up underneath the front fender. Start by removing this lower rivet here, one here, these three, and the front of this pair here. Alright, with those removed, you'll grab your MudBusters flare. You'll adjust any of the bends that may have shifted during shipping. Make it fit like you like it before you get started putting rivets in. And then you'll replace each one of those rivet locations with a long rivet supplied in your kit. It's easiest if you start with this one and you work your way out for this part. Alright, once you get those put in, it's pretty much where it needs to be. Start at the front here, drill each rivet hole, work your way from the front all the way to the back. When you drill one hole, go ahead and install rivet in that hole before you move on to the next. Once you've got all those rivets installed, your front installation is complete. Alright guys, moving on to the lower rears on this machine. You need to slide in and take out this rivet and this rivet. I've already got loosened for this one. Set them aside. Then you're going to take your lower rear fender. There's a little tab right here that this edge will need to go back behind. It'll also need to kind of be rotated around this bracket here. So start at an angle and put it behind that edge, and it should slide right in there for you. Just takes a little doing. And then take the long rivet supplied with your kit and replace the two locations that you removed rivets from a moment ago. Once that's done, you've got two more rivet holes to drill and install short rivets from your kit in those two. And the tire will get in your way if you don't want to remove it here. It's not a big deal. Your hole will end up at a slight angle, but the rivet doesn't really care on this one. So once you get those four rivets put in, lower rears are complete. Okay, at this point you may be asking why we put that little feature on this lower fender. Well, I want to show you. This machine has a full cab, full door, completely sealed, right? Wrong. There's a giant hole right there where the bed meets, and you get all kinds of splash right up in a hole right back there. So it eliminates that splash. The upper fender helps also. You'll see that in just a moment. Alright guys, moving on to the upper rear fender. We've got two pieces we've got to remove here to get started. We've got a rivet right here, and we've got a bolt back here. We take those out. Hang on to the bolt. We will need to reheat it after a while. The rivet is gone. So adjust your bends as before. Take a long rivet from your kit and install it in that hole. Take your bolt from the back, put her back in the original hole. You may have to fiddle with the outer fender to get it to line up with the inner fender here, because as soon as you release that bolt, that thing does tend to move. But it's just a matter of pushing and pulling until it slides back in place, back ready to go. Okay, from there, start up here at the front, drill a hole, move to the back just as before, nothing crazy. This one will get a long rivet, the rest of them will get short rivets, and then when you get done, tighten this bolt back here. And don't forget to tighten the bolt at the back. Now, if you've got a set of fender flares with us, your install is complete. If you bought the battery and gas panels or the bed panels, hang around, we'll get those installed in just a minute. All right, guys, working on the install on your battery and your gas tank panel for the CFMoto Uforce 1000. We're over here on the driver's side. First thing you're going to do on the driver's side is you need to take this tube and pull it down out of the way for just a minute. On this machine, this zip tie was rotated back where the joint of the zip tie was right here in the way. All I did with that is rotated that zip tie where the joint's back here out of the way. You may have to do that, you may not, I'm not sure. But for the install on this guy, pretty straightforward. We're going to take our panel and place it up in the area at an angle like this behind this bracket. You're going to take that vent tube that we just had in our hand and stick it up through the lower hole like that. You'll need to pull on it as you install the panel, push it back toward the frame, and stick it back into that factory location. Okay, once you get it up here, you've got one threaded boss right back here. Align with that threaded boss. You'll have a couple of tech screws that you can use up here into the metal. This one has already been installed once, so the tech screws are not going to have to drill. Yours will be a little bit more difficult than this. Okay, then grab your drill. You've got 4 holes to rivet, or 4 holes to drill for rivet, excuse me. And once you get those, just install a rivet in each one of the holes. These have already been drilled, so can't really show you that. You've run a drill before, surely. Not that hard to put in the 4 rivets. And then your driver's side, once you tighten this bolt right here, installation will be complete. And we'll move on to the passenger side. All right, guys, worked our way over here to the passenger side. Installation over here is going to be very similar to what we had on the driver's side. First thing you're going to need to do is take out this bolt right here and pull out and down on this tab until it clicks down against the side of that frame. And the bolts you can set to the side for now. You won't need it again. This one is going to install just slightly different. We've got a wire right here that we need to route through this slot, but we still need to get it behind this bracket. So what we're going to do is we're going to push in a little further than it needs to go for the actual install, tilt it up, and then let it come back to you. Once it's done that, it kind of falls into place. Lift up on this tab again on top of your panel. Take a bolt from your kit, align that hole, 3 spots to rivet, 2 tech screws to run like the other side, and then we'll be in there. Didn't mention it on this, but on these panels, be sure when you take them out of the box and put them in that this angle is bent to 90 degrees. If it's not right at 90 degrees, you'll have some trouble putting this guy in place. And it's a lot easier to bend it when you're standing beside the machine than it is with your hands off the machine. Go ahead and put your rivets in the 3 locations on this side. Drill the holes, of course, if you haven't already. And your passenger side installation is complete. One last thing to mention on these battery and gas panels, your bed stopper right here lands right there, which is now at a new height. So you will need to loosen up this nut, turn those in about half a turn, and tighten that nut back up, and close your bed and make sure that it closes like you like it. It may take a little more adjustment than that to get it closing just like you like. All right, guys, we're working on bed panels on the Uforce 1000. What you're going to do, we're sitting here on the driver's side. The passenger side is very, very similar, but it's actually easier because you don't have to contend with this wiring harness or this bracket. So the first thing you do on either side is take out these 3 bolts on the outside of this heat shrink. Once you get them out, you need to get your bed panel underneath this heat shrink. On the driver's side, it's as simple as setting it in there, sliding it in, lifting it up, sliding it out into place, and it installs itself. This side's a little different. Take the back of this heat shield, pull down. Now that may scare some of y'all disforming that or disfiguring that heat shield, but that stuff is essentially layers of aluminum foil. It's designed to be bent and straightened. It'll be fine. So you take your panel, put it on top of that heat shield, but you'll have to slide it underneath the bracket down. Slide it in, and then it'll kind of fall into place. You got a notch here for the wiring harness. You got a slot here that the bracket goes into. And then you'll notice that it doesn't want to go into place. Well, what we'll have to do is push in just a little bit on this flap. You can pull out on the fender a little bit too if you need to. And then rotate the inside of that front all the way to the inside as far as you can. And lift up on that fender lip. And then it'll hold itself in there. Okay, from there, go ahead and put your 3 bolts back in. Lining those can be a little bit challenging. But you can grab right here in the slot, move it around pretty easily. You can push up on that heat shield to any spot that you've been out of place, and it'll go right back to where it used to live. Once you got those bolts in and started, there's a series of holes around. We've got 2 small holes on the outside edge. Those are for tech screws. They go into that metal subframe for your bed. There's 2 at the very back that also go into that same metal subframe. But around in the center, you're actually screwing into the bosses underneath that bed in the honeycomb. So what I would do is I would start at this corner up here, installing the tech screws first. 1 tech screw here at the corner, another one down about 6 inches, and the other 2 are at the back. It's a lot easier to get to them if you go ahead and close this bed. And raise your back up for the other 4 screws. Now these screws, they go into holes that aren't threaded. They're actually not even holes yet. It will be a lot easier on you if you'll take an 1/8 inch drill bit and start those holes before you run these screws in. Now I've already done that on this one. So I'm just going to install the screws in the 4 locations, tighten them up, and then we will be complete. Now, one thing I should mention is do not over tighten these things. If you over tighten them, there will no longer be threads in that hole, and it is real difficult to hold them in place when they don't have anything to thread. Now, honestly, the bolts on the heat shield and the tech screws are probably enough to hold this thing in place, but it's likely to rattle if you don't have a few of these screws in position. And just like that, your bed panels are installed. Now get out there and enjoy that ride.